The other motivation of like wanting to put myself out there and try more things is because I already told my dad, I was like, I feel like I'm gonna die if I stay here. Like, I just really do. I don't know how to describe it. Maybe, and again, emotional, so it's not like super literal, but it's something inside me cannot handle staying here any longer. And if I choose to stay here any longer, I've betrayed myself. And I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know where I was going in terms of like school. Like, I knew I needed to go to school because that was my mentality since middle school. I knew that I needed to enjoy some part of my life and not just be working and doing stuff and then also suffering unnecessarily. So I just made a point in my head that that was just what it is. And it was already like that with the schooling thing. So the next step, right? So a lot of the decision making for me was just like, and this is before, honestly, weed. Like, fuck it. Because everything you sit down and plan. Let me just tell you this quick story. Like I said, was thinking about college since middle school. My dad's like, not, in this mentality of like, you need to know, like, that is on you to go to college kind of thing. Like, you have to put in the work, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking he's like, academically make sure that you are an option that's really good, blah, blah, blah. But what I found out later, because I got accepted into Laverne University in California, and I wasn't able to go because they gave me a lot of scholarships, but I didn't get full ride scholarships. And my dad wasn't comfortable helping me with the whole, it was a payment a month to continue to be there with everything else being covered. And so, in hindsight, get a job, pay for it. It wasn't that much, but I had never had a job up until that point, so I didn't think like that. But anyway, the point of telling that is, when I had gotten to California, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I didn't want to be in Washington anymore. And I was fortunate enough to live with family, so I wasn't like completely just like in the wind, flapping and fluttering, But I had the option of going to school, and I waited a year. I ended up going to school, and when I was there, I'm just so grateful for El Camino College in Torrance, to be specific, because the university professors I say university professors because we were in college, but they were from the universities. They were almost retired out of those positions, and they were just at community college to teach. So it wasn't just learning the actual curriculum of like the class, like biology or whatever. Thankfully, like, I had this dude that was so, like, personable. Like, he would tell stories about himself, and it just made the experience, and it's not even just about himself, it was like his experiences growing up where he grew up, and like what that has to do with how his viewpoint is on life. Like, those type of conversations you don't really get in like everyday life, but it's in, and you don't really expect it when you're in school because you're thinking the curriculum. But to me, that's a real teacher, because you know what is necessary for the people you're talking to in the classroom. And so we all had great grades, it was like encouragement, incentive. And then the last thing I really would say is, for me, I found passion in things that I think if I had any other viewpoint looking at those things would have had a judgment before I even had a chance to really understand it. And so that's where like a lot of my own personal like curiosity comes from, is like the phrase "don't judge a book by its cover." I feel like it's trying to be phased out so heavily with like I express myself to the T visually and otherwise, but it's like you still can't do that because nobody knows themselves completely. Like, they might know themselves on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, on a spiritual basis, but to really know everything about yourself, you have to be self-reflective all the time. And I think that practice of doing that can get muddled with self-obsession, and then you don't know how to distinguish what you're either wasting your time doing towards yourself or doing for yourself that is actually building who you are. And so my whole point is, if you are in a space where you feel like you have to be in self-defense of you existing, I think, one, that's not a safe place. And then two, if you are just trying to figure out your lane, you have to fight for it. That's what I did when I told my dad, like, I feel like I'm going to die if I'm here. That might sound extreme, but it's because you have to understand the severity of me needing to leave. And I think that's the thing about a lot of stuff. I'm very literal, like 75% of the time, because I like to have fun. I like to make jokes because it's easier for me to handle the seriousness of stuff. But it's also like to process what the hell and understand it. Sometimes my processing, I realize, is not that slow. It actually is so fast that I have to make sure that what I've just concluded is correct. So I'll have a conclusion in my head and I'll be like, wait, just wait. You don't freaking know. And a lot of times I'm right. For example, if I decide to put myself out there like I am currently, the odds are not so much that I'm going to get what everybody else's goal is, because I don't go off of their goal. My goal is to do this successfully and entertainingly, that if you do watch it, if you do pay attention to me in any way, you walk away feeling like, oh, okay, I've gained something about my own internal monologue or my own internal viewpoints, so that I can evaluate for myself. I have a tool now. It's not to have a belief or a thought that is coming from me that you need to hold on to, other than how to do something better. The how. Science is about the how. We're doing science. Have you ever been in a situation where you really I don't even mean to say this word, because I don't consider myself this person 100% of the time. But like in retrospect, I'm like, maybe that's why I was like, it's so obvious to me and no one else. But I'm like, there are certain spaces you're in where you are the smartest person in the room. And it might not be like you're smarter than everybody at everything, but in like this particular context of what's going on in the room, you are the smartest person to that subject or like focus. And I feel like I haven't been able to really like put that into words ever. So there we go. But my point of bringing it up, besides like realizing it, I think that I've gone through situations where I don't have context for how that feels. So when I'm in that space of like, everything is very obvious. Why is it so obvious? I get frustrated. And so I kind of analyze it like, whether or not it's intentional that someone's, like engaging in this behavior, it's so obvious that it's a behavior that you're engaging in on a specific and very timely basis. Two, I really believe that when we're in a space where we feel like we're trying to keep up, it's better to it's a psychology thing. It's better to put people down in their own mental thought process than it is for you to tell them that they're wrong. And narcissism, whatever you want to call it, it's really a psychological game. This is the third one. It's a get in your head type of dynamic that occurs when you feel like you're not understanding what's going on as much as you want to, or you like don't have as much like comfort because of whatever level of control you need to have in any given space. So you like go on defense mode in that space. And instead of, taking this route of, sorry, I'm still on 3. Instead of taking the route of learning, like opening the vulnerability up of learning and understanding something so that you're not misinformed, misunderstanding, and generally like run by the emotions that fear causes when you don't know what's going on. The fear of the unknown is so real, and people put it in context of like scary movies and stories, but it's like the fear of the unknown is what drives most people's like behavior. So I really being able to be in that space and being vulnerable and comfortable to be vulnerable, that you don't know everything. And then I think the most important one for me is the ability to know that outside of this particular conversation, outside of this particular subject matter or type of understanding, learning and knowledge gaining, like community-based knowledge gaining, there is no personal viewpoints of somebody that you're trying to understand or you're trying to gain understanding from, or give understanding to. There is no judgment, because you're in the vulnerability, you're in the space of growth, that you can't have judgment in that space and grow. It just doesn't work. So to believe that is so important, because at the end of the day, how else do you grow? Like, if you have another answer to how to grow, tell me now. And for me, I don't think in context of like where I'm sitting and who am I to like have an opinion. I'll have an opinion, period. Whether I share it or have it out loud, that's up to me. But I'm not going to sit there and say that's not how I believe, if it's how I believe. Specifically in context to there's two things. One, if I really have been talking about something and I was wrong, and I'm like, okay, you give me the context to understand it, to, put my perspective out of the way, then cool. Two, you're trying to